So I always talk about how follow-up is super important in your wholesaling real estate business, but how do you actually do that and what does it look like? Stay tuned and I'll show you. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining me. My name is Graylan Stewart. I am a real estate investor. We focus on wholesaling as our main exit strategy, but I also do some buy and hold properties for long-term wealth. We also do fix and flips for the big paydays. But wholesaling real estate is what we do all day, every day. So that's mostly what my channel is about. And I love to just teach you about my life experiences. So everything I tell you about is what I experience in my everyday wholesaling, business and experience. And I've been doing this almost 4 years now, so I definitely consider myself an expert. Done tons of deals, made millions of dollars, and we'll just get into the video from there. Okay. So today's video, I'm going to talk about follow-up. Okay. Now, in any type of sales organization or any type of sales job of any kind, follow-up is key. Follow-up is everything. If you're in sales, you already know that. But what people don't realize is wholesaling real estate is sales, okay? It's not any different, right? Most things that we do in our life, most important things at least, are sales related. From anything you could think about, a kid trying to talk their parent into spending the night with somebody else, or a kid trying to get a raise for their allowance, you know what I mean? Just all things like that. Are you trying to talk your wife or spouse into purchasing, some shoes that you want or whatever it might be? So it's all sales skills, right? No matter what you're doing, whether you think about it like that or not. But nevertheless, when you're talking sales and business, follow-up is everything. And there is a right way and a wrong way to do it. Because a lot of times, I might tell people in my organization that you got to follow up, all the time to stay top of mind with sellers or with buyers or whatever the situation is. But what does that really mean? It's one thing to tell somebody something, but it's another thing to show them or tell them exactly what you expect and what to do, right? So follow up for me as far as sellers go, okay? Now, obviously, this is a highly follow-up game, in general, right? Most deals that we get, we touch that lead probably a dozen times minimum, typically, right, before we get a deal. And sometimes it's, 20, 30 touches and several months of following up before we actually get deals to come to fruition, okay? So that just shows you how important it is. But also, follow-up will set you apart from your competition, okay? Because most of the time, your competition will follow up 1 or 2, 3, 4 times maybe, but they typically kind of stop after that, especially if they get a hard no. They'll just assume that, okay, that's a dead lead, I'll move on. Now we do that a little differently. We treat leads differently. We've got our hot queue leads that we follow up like a boss. Basically, you're supposed to follow up every day with those, some of them several times a day. And then we've got more of our nurture leads that told you maybe a hard no or not right now. So whatever length of time they say, I might be interested in a month, or call me back next year, or I might be interested this summer. Whatever time period they give you, make a note of this. Whatever time period they give you, actually cut that in half, okay? Maybe even less, because if it's a long ways, if they tell you, follow up in 6 months, I might think about it. So even that situation, if it's 6 months, I say cut it in half typically, but that would be 3 months. But I would say even cut that in half too. Maybe call them back in a month and a half. Because you got to keep in mind, I'm not the only wholesaler calling this seller. You're not the only wholesaler calling the seller. They're probably getting hit up by dozens of other wholesalers as well. So if you and your company are not top of mind, meaning the freshest thing in their head when they think about selling their house, then you're probably going to lose that deal. So they might have told you to follow up in 6 months, but in the meantime, 15 to 30 other wholesalers are reaching out to that same seller every single day. And so that's every single day that you're potentially chancing on losing that seller to someone else. So hopefully that makes sense. Because I have definitely seen this in my 4 years over and over again, that we've actually lost deals because of lack of follow-up, at least in a timely manner, okay? Now let's talk about that since I mentioned timely manner. That's probably more important than anything, y'all. So when you do follow up, okay, you did all this work. You're calling the sellers, you're texting them, you're emailing them, you're doing whatever you can to get a hold of them several times a day in some cases. Now, when you actually finally get them to respond, it's very important, and I can't stress that enough. Very important to actually follow up with them right after they respond, okay? Because you did all the work to get there, all to get a response from them. So if you don't actually reply as soon as they respond to you, it was all for nothing, It was basically pointless because I've actually seen that in my own business, and I've seen that with newer employees even oftentimes. You just got to always be preaching that message to your team. And if you're a solopreneur, you got to ingrain that into your head because if you did all this work just to get somebody to reply to you, you've got to reply back to them in a timely manner. When I say timely manner, within a few minutes if possible, because if you let hours go by, well, you had them on the hook because they were actively talking to you, probably responding to you by text, on phone, or something like that. Well, if you let hours go by, you don't have their attention any longer. They're already off to doing something else and they forgot about you. So they're probably going to ghost you, or it'll be difficult to ever reach them again, right? So the point of that is respond to them right away if possible, okay? That's the very most important thing about follow-up in general. Because you got to keep in mind when you're following up, it's super important to make sure that you reap the rewards of your work, okay? So if you're not actually reaching back out to them as soon as you get a response, you pretty much did it for nothing, because you just got to always keep in the back of your head, okay, it took me 15 responses over a 2-month period to actually get them to reply to me. Now they finally replied. That's my cue to pounce, or that's my cue to ask more questions to kind of go deeper into their motivation or to the condition of their property or whatever the situation is. That's your key. You got them on the hook, so keep them there as long as you can, right? Immediately say, hey, are you available for a quick phone call? That's the best thing to do, right? You want to get people on the phone as fast as you can. We have done deals just texting only. That's more difficult. It's usually when it's like a Hispanic speaker and we don't speak Spanish. We use a translator to do that. So we've locked up deals like that, but we've also locked up a couple other deals that people just, they just wanted us to text only. But in most cases, it's way better to try to get them on the phone. So we always do phone calls first. Now, let's talk about when you first get leads, okay? Now, in my business, when we first get leads into my CRM, into Podio, we don't really know what that lead is yet, okay? We assume it's a motivated seller because they came into our system in some way, form, or fashion. But at the same time, we have to qualify that lead. Sometimes they're pre-qualified depending on how the lead comes in. But oftentimes, if it's like, a TV ad or something like that, and they call us and we miss the call, now we have to actively pursue that lead like hardcore, right? So our goal is to, in my business, our policy is to call that lead back 3 times in a row, okay? You don't try one time and then give up. You got to do it 3 times in a row, because you got to think about the sellers that we deal with typically are older. So oftentimes their phone might be in a different place than where they are at the time, and they can't necessarily get to it fast enough with the amount of rings that it gives, right? So that's why we call it 3 times. Usually after the 3rd ring, you typically will get an answer in a lot of cases. But then we also always follow that up with a text. Let's just say you did call 3 times in a row and they don't answer. You just follow up with a text. Say, hey, I tried to give you a call back. I noticed you called me from our TV ad. Please holler back when you get a chance. I'd love to talk to you and give you a cash offer. Something like that, right? So you actually actively pursue these leads so that you don't lose them. Because, as we all know, if you've been in this game at all, or if you're brand new, here's a nugget, right? Getting a hold of these people are the hardest thing possible. Even the ones that reach out to you, it's still super hard to get a hold of them. We've seen it time and time again with PPC leads, for example. If you don't reach those leads within the first, 20 to 30 seconds, definitely within the first minute, then a lot of times we never, ever, ever get a hold of those people, no matter what we do. Because you got to think about it, if they're Googling, sell my house for cash or something along those lines, then they're going to start calling everybody that they can until somebody answers. They're going to just keep going down the list to whoever answers that can fulfill their need. I've said it many times before that our goal is to we provide a service to where we can actually help somebody with their problems, right? So we're problem solvers. And if they actively are searching online for that, then they have a huge problem. They're super highly motivated typically. So if we don't reach them right away, chances are you're going to lose that lead. And not only that, the worst part about it is you might have spent a few $100s on that pay-per-click lead, and that's literally trash, So I don't know about you, but I take my money seriously. We spend close to $20,000 a month, on any given month for marketing only. So if you think about the amount of leads coming in, we could do the math on what your cost per lead is and really take ownership of that. If you're paying, just for an example, if you're paying $200 a lead, you got to treat every single lead like it's gold. So it's super important that if you're doing it yourself or you've got people doing it, that they respond right away, because that's your money that they're playing with, right? So anyways, hopefully all those things make sense, but that's how we treat leads. That's the best way to follow up in my experience. Been doing the wholesaling game for about 4 years now, but I've been in sales my entire adult life. I do consider myself a sales expert because I've always been relentlessly, consistently persistent in my sales pursuit, right? You got to actively pursue these people, and you really got to hound them to death until you get what you want, and in exchange, you're giving them what they want, which is a cash offer and, freeing them of their pain. So anyways, hopefully all that made sense. I hope you got some value from it. Please like, share, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot.